Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Science of Mass Effect Andromeda. So in between the last episode I actually restarted the game because I wasn't quite happy with how my rider looked, so I've recustomized his appearance and you'll see that in a minute. But before we continue with the story I want to talk about some of the science, because I've been reading through the codex in between episodes and found some interesting things to talk about, especially in the technology section. We'll start with the scanner. So we have this fancy scanner that allows us to scan stuff, and there's some interesting things to note about that. So the system is called Panoptes, which is Greek for seeing everything, sees everything, and again with the Greek related words. Interesting, it says it uses a transmitted accelerator mass spectrometer, TRAMS. Now, accelerator mass spectrometer is actually a thing that exists in real life. So a mass spectrometer is a device that allows us to determine the properties or determine what kind of stuff we have, if we have stuff. And what it does is you take your block of stuff and then you ionize it, which means say you strip it of electrons or you add electrons so it becomes electrically charged and it kind of breaks up into chunks, atomic chunks, or molecular, so single atoms or single molecules, and those are then electrically charged because you've taken away or added some electrons, and that allows you to use an electric field and a magnetic field to pull them along, and then you kind of make them follow a curved path, and the curvature of the path, because of how forces work, will depend on the mass, right? If something is a higher mass, you have to pull on it harder to kind of get it to follow a certain curve, and if you pull with a certain fixed force, then the more mass something has, the flatter the curve will be. So in that way, you can kind of place a detector only at one point, and then by varying the electric field, you can vary the force, and so therefore vary the curvature, and then you know that whatever hits your detector must have a certain ratio of electric charge to mass, because otherwise it would follow a different curved path and it would miss your detector. So from that you can determine the chunks in your stuff, what their ratio of mass to electric charge is, and if you have a little bit of an idea of what it might be, you can use that to figure out, what atom you actually have, or what molecular chunks you have. Sorry, and then you can use that to work out what stuff you have. Right, and if you have kind of reference material, you can build up profiles and compare. And if you don't have reference material, you can at least say, well, I have chunks that weigh this much and this much and this much, so it's probably one of these things. An accelerator mass spectrometer is also a thing that exists. And it's called that because it uses a particle accelerator, hence the name, to ionize the material, right? Because at the beginning you have to strip off those electrons or add on new electrons, and the various ways of doing that. One is by using a particle accelerator to take other particles and accelerate them to really high speed and then shoot them onto your block of stuff. There's various advantages to it. In real life, you need a particle accelerator for that, which are kind of big and bulky, require a whole building sometimes. But okay, with the advent of Mass Effects, which allow you to change mass properties, it's perfectly possible, perhaps we can imagine that it would be possible to make an accelerator that you could carry around on your arm in this scanning device. Now it says transmitted accelerator mass spectrometer, which makes you wonder, what is being transmitted, because if I have this device on my arm that's shooting out stuff, okay, if I just transmit it, that means I need a detector on the other side of whatever I'm transmitting through to detect things, right? What I want is to detect stuff coming back towards me because I'm here and not on the other side. So transmitter is a bit of a weird thing. And it says for biological materials, Panoptes system switches to an electrospray ionization system, so plants or animals can be scanned without causing radiation damage. Couple of points there. One is that it's quite possible you also don't want to cause radiation damage to to non-biological materials. Another is that electrospray ionization is also a real thing, and that's another way of making these making your material ionized, right? So you can then feed it into your spectrometer. Electrospray ionization works using a liquid that you pass a very high current through, and then you kind of get droplets. So that also means you have a liquid that you're passing a very high electric current through. So A, it needs to be liquid. B, you need to be in contact. So you can't do it at a distance magically, because you need to be in contact to generate this electrospray. So yeah, you're still ionizing this material, and that still will damage. It won't be radiation damage perhaps, but it'll certainly be a different type of damage. So it's not actually necessarily any better for biological materials. At least, if you try to scan something that's living and you want to keep it alive. Also, a mass spectrometer works by making particles follow a certain path. It's a bit, that's why, it's a box that you put stuff in. It's a bit unclear how this device on your arm is accomplishing that. Right? Because you're not putting things into the box in your arm, you're just remotely scanning magic rays. So it's, one of these things where they've dressed up things in nice science and sciencey sounding words, but if you really look into what's going on, it doesn't really pan out. We can get that even more here in the technology thing, where they explain element 0 and fast and light drive. So we have element 0, also known as ESO. Element 0 is an odd name, right? Elements were called that originally because people thought they were really the elements, as in the fundamental building blocks. We found later it's wrong, but okay. If I take, for example, this pen is made of plastic. The plastic is made up of different types of atoms, but I can sort that out. And chemically, at least, the fundamental things are, I have carbon atoms and hydrogen atoms, maybe some oxygen. But those kind of, chemically speaking, the fundamental elements, hence things got named elements. And the lightest one is hydrogen. And hydrogen, as you might know, consists of one proton in its nucleus. And then you can add more protons and neutrons. It builds up. So element 0 implies that it has 0 protons in its nucleus, but what does it have instead? It's not telling us. And it's kind of a weird name. If it's completely different from regular matter, why would you call it element 0 and not something else? Probably you would come up with a name for it that really reflects that it's different. I mean, element 0 could definitely be a nickname, but as an actual scientific name, it's a bit odd. Then we have this, how it's created. It's generated with solid matter, such as a planet. Okay, why would you take a planet as an example? You can think of many things, but okay. Is affected by the energy of a star going supernova. This is a super vague sentence. Right now I am affected by the energy of the light over there, because that is sending out light waves and they're falling on my skin and bouncing off again into this camera. I'm affected by the energy of the air around me, right? The air around me is a certain temperature, it hits my skin, that causes me to transfer heat to the air, or vice versa. What is affected by energy could mean anything, right? And fair enough that they don't want to think up the complete science of what's going on, but just realize that this is a very vague statement. One thing that is true is that if a star goes supernova, there is a massive amount of energy put out. If our sun were to go supernova, which it can't because it's not heavy enough, but if it were, then the sun, all the way millions of kilometers, hundreds of millions of kilometers over there, or over there actually in my case, if I were to go supernova, the amount of energy that would hit me in the face would be more than if I were to take a nuclear bomb and hold it to my face here and then set off that nuclear bomb. That would be less energy than the sun going supernova, just to give you an idea of how massive, what massive amounts of energy is being created. What is created when a sun or star goes supernova is lots of very important elements. All atoms heavier than iron are generated in supernovas, and practically only in supernovas. Right? So you might know stars, they fuse atoms together. So for example, you have two hydrogen atoms. The real process is a bit more complicated, but the idea is two hydrogen atoms, you can smoosh them together and they become helium. And this releases energy actually, because one helium atom is slightly less heavy than two hydrogen atoms. So if you smoosh these two hydrogen atoms together, the total mass goes down by a small amount. And Einstein came up with this idea that mass and energy are equivalent. His famous equation says that energy in a piece of mass is equal to the mass times the speed of light squared. The speed of light is very high, so speed of light squared is also very high. So even though you're only losing a small amount of mass when you smoosh these atoms together, it still releases a lot of energy. That's basically what powers the sun. And the thing is, smooshing atoms together always releases energy until you get to iron. And for all atoms heavier than iron, if you smoosh them together, the combination is heavier than the things you've smooshed together, added together, than the sum of those things, right? So to create anything heavier than iron actually takes energy. So in normal stars, they can create everything up to iron, but anything heavier than iron they can't create by fusion anymore, because it would now stop everything, because it drains the energy. So those are only created when the star goes supernova, and it's just a huge explosion, and so much energy is released that things get smooshed together, and well, it doesn't matter because the star is going exploding, basically. Okay, so and this element 0 has this mass effect. So if we pass an electric current through it, it can raise or lower mass in a certain area around it. Which is, Mass Effect's one big lie, let's say, right? So this is their departure from what we know about physics, but they've invented this new physical principle, this new material. Who knows, maybe it does exist out there somewhere. With current understanding of physics, we don't think it's possible, but that's only our current understanding of physics. So, the interesting thing is to take this Mass Effect and their description of how it works as a given, and then see whether things actually hold up. So we have the fast and light drive. It says, okay, we have a drive core based around using element 0. And they say in special relativity, an object approaching light speed effectively gains in mass. It doesn't just effectively gain in mass, it actually literally gains in mass. At least that's my understanding of special relativity. Right? And this is why we can't get to light speed, because it would take an infinite amount of energy to push right up to light speed, because the mass keeps on increasing rather than the speed when you are pushing it. And then they talk about a negative electrical current, which isn't really a thing. An electrical current is a stream of electrons running around, generating an electric field. So I'm not sure what they mean by an electrical current. But okay, let's say, so we have element 0, and either we can make current run through one way or the other. And depending on that, it will increase or decrease mass. So we still use kind of, let's say, regular engines, thrusters to propel the ships. But then this element 0 core reduces the mass of the ship and counteracts that relativistic effects. So even though we're using a regular thruster, we can still get up to light speed or even exceed it. Obviously not in accord with current day physics, but okay, yeah, I can see that holds up. And then they got this thing about, drive cores build up a static charge. Makes sense if you have to always feed in a negative, have the ESO become negative. And, that needs to be discharged every so often. That kind of limits your fast and light travel range. Makes sense. And then we have here about Mass Effect fields. So, okay, we can, make things have less mass, make things high mass. High mass fields create artificial gravity and push space debris away from vessels. I'm not sure how you do that unless you create a Mass Effect field on the other side to pull things away from vessels. Gravity can't push, right? It can only pull. Okay. High mass compaction creates dense, sturdy construction materials. That, so my training is kind of in material science and structural engineering. That doesn't really make much sense. So, one thing is being dense as such is not necessarily a good thing, doesn't make for good construction material. Aircraft, spacecraft are made of aluminium precisely because it is not dense. Right? You want low density so you can have a low weight structure because you have to lift it up into the air. And that's why you build planes out of aluminium and not out of steel, because aluminium is less dense. So having dense construction materials is not necessarily a good thing. What is a good thing is to avoid porosity, especially if you make, for example, plastics. You can have air bubbles trapped in that, and then your plastic is less dense, but that's because there's these air bubbles, and then you don't have plastic but air, so that reduces, how good your plastic is. But, having high mass, yes, the plastic itself is higher mass, but also the air bubbles trapped inside are higher mass, so just making things high mass won't squeeze those air bubbles out of your material. So, how is that actually making dense, sturdy construction materials? I don't know. Right? This is basically where we get into the, it's space magic part of the Mass Effect. And it's fine. But then, don't pretend it's science. So here is interesting, this technology chart in Andromeda. They did some space magic hand waving, and they basically said, well, the Geth built a faster than light telescope, and that was how we managed to find, what the Andromeda galaxy was like and what all these worlds are like in more or less real time. So they thought of what my objections to, how did they pick out these worlds, and they came up with a space magic solution. Cryogenic stasis. So here they talk a bit about how the stasis works. Indeed, it's based on low temperature cryogenics. And they say, well, first, the body's temperature is lower to slow its vital functions. That's definitely a thing, right? Our bodies work because of all kinds of chemical reactions going on in our body. If you lower the temperature, chemical reactions go more slowly because the molecules move more slowly. Right? That's the definition of temperature, is how fast are things moving. So, indeed, lowering the body's temperature slows its vital functions. It also basically gives you hypothermia, which doesn't sound very comfortable. But you have to maybe suffer a bit of discomfort for getting a whole new galaxy to explore. And then it says, generates a Mass Effect stasis field, beg your pardon, that suspends both the individual and the interior environment in the pod. And now we've really gone into space magic, right? What we know about the Mass Effect is this is an effect that affects mass, right? It makes objects have more or less mass than they would normally have in an unaffected area. Fine. And it can explain fast and light travel and how you can cheaply launch stuff into space and how your guns work. Fine. But how does that suddenly create stasis and suspended animation? That makes no sense. So basically they're just saying, well, because of the Mass Effect, space magic. Don't think about it. So it sounds like they've come up with an explanation of how stasis works, but actually they really haven't. Anyway, enough codexing for now. Let us go to the game again. We should get our helmets.
Hang in there, Sarah.
Oh yeah. So we also found that our dad was in the military, but he was discharged because he was researching AI. Which makes sense in the Mass Effect universe. Anyway, Pathfinder, and that's why it was picked up by the Andromeda Initiative. As a member of the Pathfinder team, you play a critical role in the Andromeda Initiative's efforts to establish a foothold in the new galaxy. Team faces many challenges. Golden World Site verification. Validation is more like the correct word, but okay. Reconnaissance and mapping of unknown territories, planetary and celestial. Scientific analysis and discovery of new phenomena is the plural. Potential first contact with extraterrestrials, establishing diplomatic relations with local inhabitants, and general support of settlement outposts. That's an awful lot of very varied tasks. We think we might have different specialists for that. Would be better.
Looks like Dad's already suited up. Crashing the party, huh? Sorry.
Here, have some music.
Hey, Ryder. It's Kirkland, right? Yeah. I think we met just before the Hyperion left Earth. Not sure if you know Greer.
Hi there. Your dad say anything about what's going on?
So, this is the Pathfinder team. You know, the most important team, we've been told, of this whole expedition. Right, that you're going to send out to check where everything is okay, to basically fix any problems and make sure your colonies survive. Why haven't they been training together for years? Why do they only meet now? I'm having my doubts about this Andromeda initiative and how well run it is. Be afraid sounds a bit much. Planetfall 30 is very logical. Let's go for sensors are scrambled.
Tough to say. Sensors can't get a read on the planet. Well, at least it keeps things interesting.
Yeah, you're ashamed to go through all this training and not put it to good use.
See you guys on the ride down.
So they've had lots of training, but why weren't they training as a team? Right, I mean, if you look at the astronauts who sent to the ISS, you know, they trained together for years as a team before they set foot in the rocket. First contact protocol. In the event any member of the Pathfinder team encounters intelligent alien life, imperative that first contact protocols be strictly observed. Andromeda Initiative holds the principles of peace and cooperation amongst our highest ideals. Fine, you get some of their ideals. Aggressive action is only permitted when hostile intent is clearly demonstrated and Pathfinder team members are at obvious risk of injury or death. That seems like a good plan, especially considering humans' previous experiences with first contact.
Better not. No bathroom breaks in this trip.
Dad's rock.
Good luck, Rock, huh?
Your dad was mountain climbing back on Earth. It caught him from falling. The way things are going today, we'll need any luck we can get.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Privileges of rank, I suppose, to take the huge rock with him.
Analysis indicates alkali feldspar and quartz, commonly known as granite.
So, actual mineral names, actually. I'm not a geologist, so I don't know much about it, but... Human female, DNA-based organism.
Andromeda. Everything was in the clear. How could things change like that?
Liquid water is present. Now this is a water dispenser.
And I've never come across anything like it.
I like how it makes a difference between data and analysis, which is a very important thing.
The Pathfinder team is assembling in the hangar.
Ryder? Hey, Fisher, how's it going? I heard a rumor from the bridge that your dad and the captain aren't seeing eye to eye on this.
Let's be honest with people.
She wasn't thrilled with the idea of the expedition, but my dad won her over. I heard you weren't a big fan of it either. It's her ship, her call. You got guts going against the old man. The way I see it, Pathfinder team answers to the Pathfinder. Besides, your dad's the N7 here. He's got the best aim. I go wherever he goes.
Okay, this is already not good, right? You want to have clear lines of hierarchy. You know, and there should be protocols saying that the captain is in charge or the Pathfinder is in charge, and you should have decided on that before you left. And, you know, personal loyalty to the Pathfinder if the captain is supposed to be in charge sounds like a recipe for mutiny.
Got it.
That should do it.
Yay, helmet.
Pathfinder is now requiring sidearms. I've opened the armaments locker.
We expecting trouble, Sam?
A precaution. Please arm yourself, Ryder.
So just another boring day at the office, huh?
Shuttle teams, prep for departure.
If it was, this wouldn't be any fun. I can't wait to find out what's down there.
I know what you mean. I always wondered what it was like when explorers crossed the ocean. Nothing but stars and dead reckoning to guide them.
And a map that said, "Here be dragons."
Well, if they made it, we can too. And maybe see a dragon along the way.
I prefer to eat lunch, not be lunch.
You're not a real explorer till you've got some scars. Or bite marks.
On that note, I'd better get my gear in order.
Right. Dead Reckoning, in case you don't know, is a method of navigation where basically you work out where you are based on how long you've been going in a certain direction, right? So you say, well, we've been sailing west at 10 kilometers an hour for 2 hours, so we've moved 20 kilometers west, and we know where we started, so then we know where we are. Principle works, but you have to have a very accurate measurement of your speed and how far you've been moving. And of course, if on the ocean you have ocean currents and the winds, and your compass is maybe not super accurate. Your speed determination, especially in the days of the early explorers, is maybe not so accurate. So it introduces errors in your estimate of your position.
Hope I won't need this.
You never know. Now let's get to the shuttles.
You and me both, Ryder. You and me both.
Dr. Carlyle, with everything going on, I think the Ark needs you more than we do.
Pathfinder wants a medic on hand, and if that is home down there, I'm happy to knock on the door.
Yeah, we're just not sure what's on the other side of the door.
No problem. If it has teeth, I brought the pliers. Yanked them out myself.
All right, team, button it up. We leave in 5.
Sir, we broke out the weapons as requested. Anything we should know about?
Seemed prudent given the situation. We'll be short-handed with Sarah out. I heard what happened. Your sister's strong. She'll make it.
She better. Huh.
Sarah wouldn't want us to worry because of her.
You're right. The mission comes first. Though, I doubt your mother would have seen it that way. I promised her I'd get you two here safely. Okay, team, listen up. I chose each of you for the Pathfinder team, not just because you're talented and passionate, but because you're dreamers, like me. We dream of exploring the unknown, of finding the edge of the map, and then discovering what lies beyond. When people look back on this, and they will, they'll remember we didn't give up, that we kept dreaming, that our first few faltering steps in Andromeda were the beginning of everything they know. We only get one chance to be first. So, let's go make history.
Been waiting 600 years for this.
Very good.
Archive period, this is Shuttle 1. Switching to manual guidance.
Shuttle 2, taking your lead.
Good luck, Pathfinder team.
Turning to Vector 135.
Copy that. We're on point.
Wow, will you look at that? Whatever it is, it stopped the Hyperion in its tracks.
It appears to be an unstable mass of dark energy.
If you say so.
Steer clear of it.
A mass of energy. I mean, yes, mass and energy are equivalent according to relativity, but
Gravity anomalies detected.
See if I can even it out. My stomach would appreciate that.
135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135. 135.
Ryder, we didn't have a chance to meet back in the Milky Way. Name's Liam Costa, Security and Response Specialist.
Good to meet you, Liam.
Hard to believe we're finally doing this.
Sure beats reading the brochures.
Beginning our deceleration.
Okay, we're meeting our team for the first time now. I like the sequence though. Would suggest sitting down.
Hang on. Initiating atmospheric entry. Here we go. The flight guidance is scrambled. It'll pass. The controls are fighting me.
Adjust approach factor 3 degrees to start.
We're through. Holy.
Shuttle 2, are you seeing this?
Copy that. Doesn't look like a golden world from here.
Ionization levels are rising.
Stay on course to the landing zone.
Oxygen levels are below minimum human requirements.
Is this the right planet? We had this all worked out.
Keep it tight, Shuttle 2.
The mountains are floating. Look, port side.
That has to be advanced engineering.
Hyperion, this is the Pathfinder. We've got evidence of an alien civilization.
Has anyone seen us?
What if they're not friendly?
We stick to contact protocol. No use of deadly force unless hostile intent is clear.
Lightning strike! From lost control! Shuttle 2 declaring emergency! I've got a fire! Hang on! Going down! Going down!
Uh-oh. This is not good. This is not good at all.
Increasing.
No shit, Sam.
Your jump jet is malfunctioning.
Get it working!
Approaching terminal velocity.
Or at least we want to accelerate more. Uh-oh. That is some nifty 3D printing technology. Well, this doesn't look like a nice place.
This is Ryder. Come in. Hyperion, Sam, anyone there?
Save your breath, Ryder. Sam's offline. Comlink's trashed. I'm surprised we aren't too.
Did the others make it?
I don't know. It was all a blur. Shuttle split in two. This is like some nightmare.
Yeah. No way this is home.
Dun dun dun.
Looks like we're gonna find some high ground. See if anyone else is alive. Come on. Ryder, how's your survival training?
I've seen my share of troubles. Nothing crazy, but...
Well, crazy just found us. Those rocks out there are floating.
Terra Incognita.
Floating rocks are weird
Some of these
indeed.
plants look like tentacles. Is the water here even water?
Well, without Sam, it's hard to say exactly what this is. It's sort of a plant, and maybe dead, but maybe not.
Those structures we saw on the way in? Who could survive in a place like this?
Not sure we want to find out.
It's interesting that we get data now, but no analysis because Sam is offline. Right? That's pretty cool because it's a big difference. You know, data is just, you know, facts you collect.
Those here don't seem natural.
Analysis is, you know, when you think about those facts and then draw conclusions from them. I like that they've split out that difference because it's very easy to get those kind of things mixed up. And you know, science is about first collecting data, but then also about actually doing the analysis. So that's pretty cool that they've done that way.
We should get on with it.
Okay, we can get research data. Very nice. But unfortunately, that's about it for this episode. So I hope you will join me next time as we continue to explore this strange new world and seek out new life and new civilizations. Till then, this has been the Science of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Hanging around
Thank
here
you
isn't helping. Let's go right.
for watching.